Hello everyone, welcome back to Simplify. Today we've got another video for you and we're focusing our attention on something called microtransactions. For those of you who don't know anything about microtransactions, a basic summary is that these are in-game purchases that are offered in a variety of online games. These purchases are typically in free games, but you also find them in blockbuster games like Call of Duty and FIFA. In order for the developers to increasingly grow a revenue stream, they've introduced the idea of microtransactions, basically purchases for specific things in game. Now these purchases range far and wide depending on the game that you're playing. For instance, in Call of Duty, you can buy different characters, you can buy different outfits, you can buy certain guns that aren't different from the base gun that you might use, but they do have different colors associated, and in some cases you can buy guns before others have access to those guns and have different attachments right out of the gate, whereas other players have to work towards getting those guns by achieving certain goals in the game while playing that game. Today, I want to talk about some of the reasons why you should avoid at all costs getting involved with microtransactions, supporting microtransactions, and supporting developers who promote these ideas. Although I understand the need for or the desire to have microtransactions, and I also understand the great appeal that these new additions to games add, I want to talk specifically today about the financial implications of microtransactions and how you should be thinking about, both in your personal life and also if you have children, how you're monitoring your children's behavior around microtransactions and helping them learn about the true intention behind these things and how they're truly taking advantage of your emotions and your desire to compete with others and keep up with others. So without further ado, I'd like to jump into my top 3 reasons why you should avoid microtransactions. And in and throughout these 3 reasons, we'll also talk about some ways to avoid this behavior or to enjoy the game at the same level for free without engaging in microtransactions. Now, my first reason is pretty simple. This may resonate more with an older crowd. For younger generations, this may not make sense at all. But when you pay for a microtransaction, you're basically getting nothing. You're getting nothing of physical value, nothing that is resellable at any level. You might be getting a unique set of pixels on a screen, but it's not even unique to you. These transactions are offered to everyone. Everyone who has a credit card and the willingness to pay for them can acquire them. So you're buying something that's not special, it's not unique. It may help you look a certain way within a game. It may help you achieve a certain goal faster. But in some ways, that's limiting your enjoyment of a game that you otherwise could have by just playing the game for free and trying to achieve those things. Now, when I talk about physical value, I'll relate this back to my childhood. What are some of the things that I purchased when I was a kid? Well, I can list a few. Baseball cards, really enjoyed baseball cards. I also purchased a lot of CDs back in my day. I enjoyed music a great deal, and I liked having the physical object, the CD. Now today, nobody's really buying CDs, although CDs are making a resurgence, as are vinyl records. But in any case, these purchases would allow me to acquire a physical asset that definitely lost value once I purchased it, but is something I could resell at a later date. Now, ironically, I'm sitting here 30 years later after I've purchased most of these CDs, and they're worth at least as much as I paid for them because CDs are now becoming more and more popular. This is not something I would expect with most purchases that you make, especially as a younger person who's just growing up and trying to figure out what you enjoy. But if you buy an in-game transaction for a specific character or whatever the transaction may give you, that will never be resellable. On top of that, the lifespan of that item is attached to the game. And so once that game becomes less enjoyable, and eventually all games are cycled out, then you have absolutely nothing to show for your purchase. You can enjoy that microtransaction for the period of time during which you're playing that game only. And that typically lasts around 1 year at a maximum, but in most cases, people get tired of games much sooner than that. Now, there are some long-standing games like Fortnite, which change slightly, but do allow you to carry through, I believe, a lot of those microtransactions. But in other instances, like in Call of Duty, you might lose all of the things that you purchased when the new game comes out. It just depends. They've done different things over the years, and so it depends on the developers' decisions and how they're carrying forward the old into the new. This is not something that you have any control over. So making that purchase for a non-physical asset that you don't actually own, you just have pixels on a screen that you're allowed to access, you basically have nothing to show for your purchase. I know it can be fun to have a unique uniform or a unique look to your weapon or whatever the game is offering, but it really doesn't change the experience of that game. And in my experience, if I ignore all microtransactions, I can enjoy the game just as much as my friend who's purchasing the latest and greatest bundles and loot bags that are offered by the developer. I oftentimes can pick up these weapons on the ground and do other things to experience them, but I don't really need to own them. I don't want to spend my hard-earned money on microtransactions that really have no long-term value whatsoever. Now, my second caution has to do with the gamification of gambling. Now, I know that in some cases, microtransactions are more like gambling because you're buying something that, let's say, a loot bag that doesn't necessarily specify what you're getting for that transaction. And so developers are very clever. They make you feel like you have a possibility of getting a certain item, and the more times that you pay for the experience, the more likely it is that you get that item. But there's no guarantee, and so you can find yourself buying multiple loot bags trying to acquire a certain item and never actually getting that item. Now, in other cases, you'll get it right away, but this is a part of the experience. It's just like gambling in a casino or online. There are certain rewards that are offered. They're trickled in at a level at which you become susceptible to just one more try, to just one more transaction. They hook you. They have fake money. This fake money is always much greater in terms of the number than the actual dollar amount you're transacting to buy that currency. This feels like a game. It feels like it's not real money, and it feels like you're playing with a great amount of cash. And so this is enabling the gambler mentality. It can become quite addicting. Not only that, but these transactions are usually accompanied by a lot of sounds, a lot of gaming sounds that are satisfying to hear, that make you feel like you're getting something big for your purchase. It's exciting to see the screen flash and the new thing appear on your screen, and then you're able to utilize that thing. And then there are lots of advertisements with these types of items that you can pay for that encourage you to make these decisions. Now, make no mistake, this is marketing at its best. These are not rare, unique, great items to purchase. They're just additional ways to get you to spend your money, the experience will not change by buying this certain item. You might feel a certain way about having a certain character, but you're really not enhancing your experience in any tangible way. So especially if you have children who are engaged in this behavior, be cautious, because this type of addiction, this adrenaline that you get from making a microtransaction that these developers are encouraging with young people who are playing games, can be very dangerous. The other consideration here is that microtransactions are tied to a credit card. Now, this credit card may not be the credit card of the person who's actually playing the game. It may be a parent's credit card, in which case it's much easier for a child to just randomly spend money and not understand the implications of what they're buying. Because it is so gamified, you can get wrapped up in these easy one-click purchases that give you things with this fake money. All of it just doesn't feel real. Now, it does feel real when the credit card bill shows up and you see this massive amount of purchases, and you see the massive amount of purchases that just took place, and for what? A whole bunch of nothing. So again, think about this behavior both in your personal life, but also if you have children, and set some boundaries. It doesn't mean that you can't enjoy a microtransaction here and there, but understand that the sole focus for developers is to create this addicting atmosphere that reinforces a continued number of purchases of microtransactions through time. They try to keep you stuck on the next greatest thing. And so in order to recreate the adrenaline and excitement you feel with one transaction, you feel compelled to continue buying the newest thing, the newest bundle, the newest offering. This is a cycle that never ends unless you set limits and understand the implications of engaging in this behavior. And all of this ties into my final reason to avoid microtransactions. These purchases are designed to manipulate your emotions. In some cases, you might say that this is exploitation. It's exploitation of younger people or whatever group of people is playing a specific game. Developers definitely understand the audience that they have. I'll give you one example. For Call of Duty, there are a lot of older players who grew up with this series and have played it for decades. And so they started introducing things like Snoop Dogg as a character and other characters or personalities that resonate with the generation that grew up with these games and these characters. It's cool to have that character say things like Snoop Dogg, but at the same time, it's unnecessary, completely unnecessary. And because these tactics are designed to exploit your emotions, to make you feel a certain way about having a certain thing, they can be very dangerous. It's marketing, again, at its best. And if you're not careful, you can get wrapped up in this world very quickly and spend lots of money. Now you might ask, what should I be doing instead? If I enjoy microtransactions, I enjoy these games, why are they so bad? That's a good question. And again, I'll say that I'm not completely opposed to people engaging in microtransactions. I just think limitations are absolutely necessary. Knowing what you're spending, how much you're spending, and why you're buying a certain item is a good practice. Just like with all of the other financial practices that I teach on this channel, this is yet another. So set some limitations on the amount of money you're willing to spend on microtransactions if you're going to spend any money at all. One tip that I like to share with my friends is to take every dollar that they put into a microtransaction and match that dollar with another dollar that they put into an investment. Then after 1 year's time, go back and reevaluate your feelings. Think about the number of dollars that you now have in an investment account in some form of index fund or stock or whatever you decide to invest in, and then think about that game and think about that in-game purchase, that microtransaction that you likely are no longer using and you realize was a complete waste of money. That mental exercise alone can really emphasize the importance of caution when it comes to microtransactions. Now, I understand that people derive value from different things, and so I don't mean to be judgmental of those who like to buy things in-game. So if these are the types of purchases that you value, if you really derive great value from that in-game purchase, then absolutely you should do that. But understand the consequences, the opportunity cost of making that purchase. You already know that there's an opportunity cost to playing games. You could be doing other things that potentially are more productive and can help you earn more money if that's your goal. But if that's not your goal and you're getting relaxation and enjoyment from the game, and that enjoyment is enhanced by an in-game purchase, then absolutely do that. I do not condemn the behavior, but the more that we collectively as a community engage in microtransactions, the more we reinforce the developers' desire to increase their revenue stream. And as their revenue increases, expectations each year also increase. And then you have to ask yourself, what is next? How will they continue to increase their revenue stream? What other things will be sold to me in the future? And will those things impact my gaming experience? I happen to think that a $70 PlayStation game or Xbox game comes with it a great amount of value. For the number of hours that you can enjoy that game, you actually get a lot of value out of the actual game. And there's lots of updating and work that's happening throughout the course of a game's life cycle to make that game better and to improve it through time, to protect it from cheaters and other things. So it's not that the game is not worth the value. These are very expensive endeavors to produce a game and to develop that and offer it online for a community. But there's a limit to this, and the amount of additional profit coming through in-game transactions over the life cycle of a game is tremendous. So for me, I like to pursue a free, pure gaming experience. I'm willing to buy the game. I'm not willing to buy anything within the game. They get the one-time payment from me, and then of course I pay for the online access so that I can play those games with other people. Those two things to me are palatable. They make good sense. Anything beyond those two purchases for a game, I do not partake in. And so again, if your focus is to develop financial independence and financial freedom, these are some cautionary tales about how microtransactions might impair your ability to reach financial independence in the long run. These are behaviors that tie into all sorts of other behaviors outside of just a gaming life. I hope this video has been helpful. I hope you now understand more about microtransactions, why they're unnecessary, and why you should potentially avoid them in the future, or if you have children, help teach them about the cost of microtransactions and how these transactions might be impacting their behavior over a course of a lifetime. If you like this video, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel. I'd love to hear some comments from you. If you have questions, of course, reach out at any time. And I look forward to seeing you in next week's video.